Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, Crystal Heart. My name is Crystal and today I'm going to be showing y'all some of my organization. Alright, before we get too much into the video, y'all don't forget to hit the like button. Y'all don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also that little bell so you can be notified whenever I post videos or whenever we go live Friday nights at 7 p.m. So lately on some of my videos, my haul videos, I've been getting questions about how I organize the fabric that I get at the craft thrift. And really, there's a whole system that I kind of use that works for me. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I organize my fabric, what I do with my fabric. Most of my fabrics are scraps, so I have to have kind of a system to put them somewhere. My yardage is something different, but I'll show you guys everything. We're going to go in the downward view. I'm going to show y'all how from the bundles that I get at the craft thrift, which y'all know come like this, what I do from this point until it's organized. So here we go. Okay, so this is all of my fabric. It's kind of in a mess right now, but I'll show y'all what I do with every single piece. So this was a piece of yardage that I got, which I usually don't get from the craft thrift, but whenever I do get yardage from wherever I get it from, I store it on a bolt, or if it's not a lot of yardage, I'll fold it up. So this is supposed to be this is 1 yard, but what I'm gonna do is just fold this yard up. If it was more than 1 yard, which I feel like it is, but they labeled it as 1 yard, but if it was more than 1 yard, then I would put it on a comic book board, which I can show on a different video, but since it's not 1 yard, I'll fold it up like this, and then after I get everything separated, I'll show y'all on my shelf how I store everything. But because it's only a yard, if it's a yard or a half yard or something like that, I'll just fold it. Now I'm going to show you guys what I do with these bundles. They come tied like this, and granted, if you're not in this area or buying fabric this way, your fabric won't be this way, but I'm just going to show you guys what I do. And you can, if any of this resonates, you can implement it in your storage or your way of storing fabric, especially if you like scraps the way I do. Alright, so I just cut that off because these bundles are not, you know, me picking out every single fabric. Sometimes I don't like every single piece that I get, so when I separate it, I go through them one by one. And this is a piece from the Nantucket Summer line that I love, so I do have a special area where I keep all my Nantucket Summer because I want to use that in a quilt, so I have to keep accumulating my scraps for that. But what I do is I'll take the strip and I just fold it. And I'm sorry if y'all hearing stuff in the background. My family is going about with life. I'll just fold it no particular way because I cannot stress myself out with folding things perfectly. And then I'll pull another piece. Now this strip is super small. This bundle was a skinny strip bundle, so it's less than 2.5 inches wide, which I really don't know what I would be able to use this for. And the pattern is probably something that I will not really use. It's not my favorite. So when I get a piece that I don't think that I'll be able to use, I take a bin and I put it in the bin until I'm done sorting. So here's just a little bin that we're going to use for that purpose. We're going to put it in the bin because I'm not going to put this in my stash because most likely I will not have much of a use for that. Okay, so the rest I'll pull out. Now this bundle is a little different because it's such small strips. So I can measure, this is 2.5 inches, at least 2.5 inches. So I can either decide to fold this to put this in my stash, or I could put it in the bin. And anything that is at least 2.5 inches wide, I cut down into squares. So I cut 2.5 inch squares, 3.5 inch squares, 4.5 inch, and 5.5 inch. And I think I'm gonna put this in the bin to cut up. And then I'll show you all my storage for my squares as well. But when there's a fabric that I don't like very much, it goes in a bin, and I'll either cut them down into squares, or I'll put them in my crumb bin where I bag crumbs, and I do sell crumbs on Etsy, or I'll donate them. So this is my, I don't want them in my stash, I gotta do something else with them bin. And because these are all small strips, a lot of these will probably go in that bin, because I can do more with squares than the actual strips. Now this is really cute, but I think if I cut it down into squares, I would like it better. So most, like I said, most of this will probably be cut down because the strips are so skinny. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this really quick, and then I'll come back with one of the bundles that is not the skinny strip bundle, so we can do some more sorting. Now this fabric, I have more of this in my stash, so I'm gonna fold this to add to the stash, and I'll add it to what I already have. Even though it's a skinny cut, if I have some already in my stash, I like to add it to it, because if I find a pattern that I want to use it in, it's best if I have more of that. Now this is flannel. I do not keep flannel in my stash, so that's going to go in to find something else to do with the bin. Okay, so this is my bin, which obviously wasn't big enough. Almost all that blue went into this bin. These are the only 3 that will make it into my stash, only because I have others of that size. But for me, buying these bundles for pre-cutting is a plus, because I do sell pre-cuts on my Etsy shop in 2.5, 3, 4, and 5.5 inches. So sometimes I buy these bundles just for the purpose of adding more pre-cuts to my stash, because when I get orders, I like to have them already ready to go. So this will all go in the pre-cuts section. So right now it's just in this bin. I'll put this off to the side and move on to the next bundle. Okay, so this bundle is more of a representation of what I usually get. They're at least this wide. I forget how it says, at least 1/8 yard wide. So all the pieces are at least 1/8 yard inch wide. So more of these will go into my stash than the skinny cuts. So I'll just fold these up in no particular fashion, just to where it kind of looks neat. And maybe one day I'll get like more of a routine on how I fold fabric, but for now, that's how I do it. And what I do, as I'm folding, I'm making stacks of the different colors of fabric, because when I bring them over to my bins, we're separating by color. So I decide if this is going to be in pink, or red, or yellow, or whatever. So this is pink, so I'm going to make a stack of my pink fabrics. Most of these will be pink because it was a pink bundle. So as I'm folding, I'm stacking, I'm making stacks of colors, color coordinating. Then when I run into one that's kind of like this, I kind of got to just decide what category I'm put in. Usually if it's like white background with a design, I'll put in my whites in my white bin. So you just kind of got to decide how you want to, if you're doing color coordination, how it works best for you. And when you go to look for fabric, how does your mind interpretate the colors of the fabric and how you want to look for the fabric? If you like to keep certain designers together, then you can maybe organize that way. But because I buy my fabric like this, that would just be too difficult. Even though I do keep my Tula pink separate from everything else because I love Tula. And I think I'm going to start keeping my Cafe fabrics separate too, because I do like those. And I'm also thinking about my Ruby Star Society fabrics. But I don't know, because Ruby Star Society has different designers and different collections. Okay, this one is white background with red, but I would categorize this as red for me. And then something like this that's like colorful, but when I see it, I think brown, so it would go in the brown bin for me. Okay, so once I have all of my fabrics folded and sorted by color, I'll take the stack of colors and then I'll just come over to the bins, pick the bin that matches the color and put it in there. So here I have what red fabric, so I get my bin of all my red fabrics and just put them in there. And this is my bin of red. Then I have one green, so I'll grab my green bin. And my bins are not organized in any way on here yet. That may be something that I figure out later. My system is, you know, you have to adapt it as you go to fit your needs. So my pink bin, I have a lot of pink fabrics. We're just going to stack all these new pink fabrics on here. And there we go. So if you've seen any of my videos, especially some of my older videos, you've seen this whole situation back here. So this is the song mix. I don't know what you call it, but it's like a shelf system, and you put it together, and it's you can put in whatever way you want. I'll link that below. I get them off from Amazon, but I've bought this like 3 or 4 times, so you don't get this many when you buy them. I guess you can buy a bigger pack, but I don't know. I'll link it below, the one that I get. It's called Song Mix, and you can adjust it to be whatever design you want. Like, you put all the squares together. So I've been having this for a very long time. It was what I used when I organized my reselling stuff for Poshmark, but now it's holding all my fabric and my cross stitch and all that. So I'm gonna put all these fabrics in the bins they belong in, and then I'll go through and show y'all exactly more up close and how I have everything up here, because I don't just have my scraps on here. I have pretty much all of my fabric is on this bin situation. So I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all that. Okay, let's start over here. This is just my regular shelf that y'all see behind me in my videos. These are some of the fabrics that are in my Etsy shop. So I have them on comic book boards and just lined up there. So that's the only place where fabric is that is not on my other shelf. And then these are just fabrics I got from the craft thrift that I use kind of just as decoration until I decide I need to use them for a project. But the craft thrift used to do these like bundles like this, rolls, jelly roll type bundles, but they don't do that anymore. So these are the last 2 that I have of those type of situation. So moving on to my song mix. This is, I'm trying to get a wide view of it for y'all. It is not organized. It's not cleaned up for y'all. This is how it looks all the time. So it is somewhat of a mess. So on the very top here, I have some batting Over here and over here I have some batting. And then this pillow I wanted to make a cover for, so I kept it up there, but it just belongs up there. And then on top of this shelf over here, all the way up there, is a bin I had of some solid fabrics. Before I started with keeping my fabrics here, I had that bin of solids, and I just kept them in there. So up at the very top, here I have some scraps from a finished quilt. So it's some batting scraps and some backing scraps that I just haven't done anything with. Some of my packing materials here, so bubbles and stuff like that for whenever I send out packages. Here is some more batting scraps that I just have here. Here is some fabric that I have not sorted. It has some Tula and things like that. Then if you move to the next line, here is some yarn. This is actually yarn from Rebecca. I just put it here because I have nowhere else to put it. Here is scraps. So when I showed y'all that I put my scraps in the bin to do something with later, to sort out later, this is the random scrap bin. I'll pull this down whenever I have free time, and I'll go through and cut pre-cuts from it, or I'll put it in my crumb scraps bags. I have many bags of crumb scraps. So here are, these are like cuts that I don't have in the scrap bins that are just stacked here. They're either like 1 yard cuts, things I get from stores and not the craft thrift a lot of times, or bigger cuts. So I keep that stacked here. They're like 2 deep, 2 layers deep. So you see some back there. Same thing with here. If I have fat quarters that I get from like the store, that are like packaged like this, I stack them here. These come from the craft thrift, but they're fat quarters. So fat quarters I kind of stack here. Little fabric bundles back here. Same with right here. Oh, and this is where I keep all my scraps of Nantucket Summer and Dwell, just because I had nowhere else to put them, so I just started stacking them there to keep them separate. Here is another little pre-cut area. These are the Moda scrap bags that I got from the Fat Quarter shop. I unboxed these on my channel and I just stacked them here. These are other little pre-cuts that I've gotten, and I just put here until I do something with. Here, okay, we're on the 3rd row. So here, this is my brown bin. I don't like brown fabric too much, so I end up putting some extra bubbles for packaging. I just sat it on top of the brown fabric. And then here are some of my yardage on comic book boards. So they're all here. I don't keep a whole lot of yardage because I buy a lot of scraps. Here is some hoops, embroidery hoops, and the little tool, remember from last video, for making, what is it, the key fobs. I guess I just stuck it in there. And then here is where I keep cross stitch fabric stash. I do sell tea dyed and coffee dyed cross stitch fabric in my Etsy shop, so I keep stash here. And for myself, here is just a rando bin. I have some of these around. These were strips I bought at the craft thrift. A little bundle I got at the craft thrift. Strips. These are just scraps I need to figure out something to do with. This is my white bin, which is full. And then I buy bundles from the craft thrift of just white scraps, because sometimes I just use white scraps as background fabric. So that's all in the white bin. This is more fabric that I get at the craft thrift when I get these little bundles and don't know what to do with them. They end up in just a rando bin. So this is another just rando bin I need to organize. This is some of my my thread for big stitch hand quilting. This is just some of them. These are the bigger ones that I can't put on my thread, on my spool holder. So for when I do hand quilting. And we have the red bin, the green bin, a rando bin of cross-stitch stuff. Projects that are either done and not fully finished or whatever. This is another rando bin. This is a little crib quilt that I finished and everything with. Some panels are in here. So I still have rando bins that I need to do something with. Down here we have the blue bin, the pink bin, the gray and black bin, the yellow and orange bin, and then this is my purple bin. Love that K fabric. And then down here, nail stuff, rando square bin, some books I need to organize. I do make thread conditioner in my Etsy shop, so here's some of the stuff for that. Some dye for dyeing fabric, and this is the tea that I use to tea dye. So that is pretty much my fabric storage. I do have another section where I keep like huge cuts of fabric in these bigger bins, or quilts in progress in these bigger bins. But as for my scraps that I get from the craft thrift, this is where they go, y'all. This is where they go. Sorry, I see a little fuzz. I see some scraps fell right here. But so that's my storage. And I just want to say that these bins I get from Dollar Tree. They come in different colors. Over time I've had several different colors, but I try to transition all the way to the white ones. And we did not discuss what I do with my pre-cuts. So I use these bins. These bins that I also get from the Dollar Tree. And I just label them 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, and I stack them. And that is what I put my pre-cuts in. All right, y'all. So this is my fabric storage. I know y'all have been questioning me about it, and this is pretty much the system that I'm working with now. It evolves. If it ever changes enough for me to make another video, I'll definitely let y'all know. But if you have any suggestions on how you store your fabric, y'all talk about it in the description box. I love not the comment section. I love to hear all that, or bring it to the Facebook group. That's linked below if you're not in the Facebook group, and we could talk about it there. But until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.